In 1985, a hot dog and a soda at Costco cost $1.50. Today, 4 decades later, that same hot dog and that same soda still cost $1.50. Adjusted for inflation, it should cost around $4.40. Costco loses money on almost everyone it sells, and it sells well over 100 million of them a year. This is not an accident, it is not a mistake, and it is not charity. It is one of the most deliberate pricing decisions in American retail, and it has been defended for 40 years with something close to violence. To understand why, you have to understand what Costco is actually selling, because it is not the hot dog. And strange as it sounds, it is not really the groceries either. Costco makes most of its profit from a single line on its balance sheet: membership fees. In a typical recent year, those fees brought in roughly $4.8 billion. And that money is almost pure profit. There is no product to manufacture, no truck to load, no shelf to restock. Meanwhile, the entire rest of the business, hundreds of billions of dollars of actual merchandise, earns a razor-thin margin. Costco caps the markup on most branded items at about 14%. On its own Kirkland signature products, about 15%. A conventional supermarket often marks up those very same goods by 25 to 50%. That ceiling is not a guideline. It is enforced from the top of the company, and going above it requires executive approval. So the merchandise barely makes money. The membership does. And that single fact flips the entire logic of the store. A normal retailer wants to profit on what is in your cart. Costco wants you to renew the card in your wallet. Every other decision follows from that one difference. Which means the hot dog was never priced as food. It was priced as a renewal cost. Costco's membership renewal rate in the United States and Canada sits around 92%. That number is the single most closely watched figure in the entire company. It is the business. A member who renews for 20 years is worth vastly more than the margin on any single item in the warehouse. So the company spends real money to protect a feeling. The feeling that this place is still on your side. Seen that way, the hot dog is the cheapest advertisement Costco could possibly buy. But keeping that price has taken more than good intentions. At one point, the company nearly broke it. In the mid-2000s, beef prices climbed and the food court started bleeding badly. Craig Jelinek, then a senior executive and later the chief executive, went to the founder with the numbers. The founder was Jim Sinegal, a man who had built the entire company around the idea of never squeezing the customer. And to understand the answer he gave, it helps to know where he learned the trade. Sinegal did not come out of business school. He started unloading mattresses in a discount store as a teenager. The store belonged to a retailer named Sol Price, the man who essentially invented the warehouse club. Price drilled one rule into him: the customer is not the enemy and the margin is not the mission. Sinegal carried that rule into Costco and applied it to himself as well. For years, he took a salary of around $350,000. That was a fraction of what chief executives of comparable companies were paying themselves. He considered it a rounding error worth defending. So when Jelinek walked in with a spreadsheet, he was not really arguing about a hot dog. Jelinek explained the obvious. They were losing money. They had to raise the price. Sinegal's answer became legend inside Costco. He told him, "If you raise the price of the hot dog, I will kill you." And then he added the part that actually mattered. Figure it out. That was not stubbornness. It was a strategic instruction, and it sent the company somewhere unusual. Costco did not raise the price. Instead, it went upstream and took over the supply chain itself. The company built its own hot dog manufacturing plant in Los Angeles and later added a second one near Chicago. It stopped buying hot dogs from a supplier and started making them, tens of millions of them, in-house. In 2009, it also moved the food court onto its own Kirkland signature brand. By owning production, Costco stripped the supplier's profit margin out of the equation entirely. The loss per hot dog shrank. But here's the thing, it never actually disappeared. Costco simply decided the loss that remained was a price worth paying, permanently. And if that sounds like an extreme response to one cheap item, Costco did the exact same thing a second time. Walk past the food court and there is another famous number, the rotisserie chicken, $4.99. That price has not moved since 2009, and Costco sells well over 100 million birds a year. It loses money on those too, by the company's own reckoning, tens of millions of dollars a year. And when chicken costs threatened that number, Costco reached for the same tool. It went upstream again. In 2019, it opened its own poultry complex in Fremont, Nebraska, a project reported to cost around $450 million. A retailer spent nearly $500 million so that a number on a sign would not have to change. Twice now, the pattern is identical. Do not touch the price. Rebuild the entire supply chain underneath it instead. Which raises the real question. Why is one cheap item worth building factories to protect? Economists have a name for what the hot dog does. It is called a price anchor. A price anchor is a single number. A customer can check instantly, without effort and without being an expert. Because nobody memorizes what a 40-pound bag of rice should cost. Nobody tracks the fair price of a car battery. But everybody remembers $1.50. It is the one price in the entire warehouse that a member can verify without thinking. And as long as that number holds, the whole warehouse feels honest. It is a signal, proof that the company has not quietly started squeezing the people who walk through its doors, which means the hot dog is not really food at all. It is evidence. And holding that piece of evidence steady for 40 years has not been cheap. Costco absorbed the beef price spikes of the 2000s rather than pass them on. It absorbed the pandemic supply shocks. It absorbed the inflation wave of the 2020s. In 2024, with costs climbing again, the company was asked directly whether the price would finally move. Its chief financial officer said the hot dog was safe. The word he reached for was forever. Now compare that to the choice almost every other chain made instead. They raised prices quietly, a few cents at a time, item by item, hoping nobody would run the numbers. Others kept the price identical and shrank what was inside the package. Customers noticed. They always notice. That reaction now has its own name, shrinkflation backlash. Trust turns out to be a strange asset. It is built slowly and it is spent instantly. And it does not appear anywhere on a balance sheet, which is exactly why it is so easy for a company to quietly sell off. A few cents of extra margin shows up in this quarter's earnings. The trusted cost shows up nowhere at all, until years later, all at once. That asymmetry is why so few companies make the choice Costco made. The reward is slow and the temptation is immediate. There is one more detail, and it is the one most people walk straight past without ever noticing. Look at where the food court sits. It is not in the middle of the warehouse. It is at the exit. Psychologists studying memory found something strange about how people rate an experience afterward. People do not average the whole thing. They remember the most intense moment, and they remember how it ended. So consider the shape of a Costco trip. The crowds, the concrete floor, the enormous total at the register, and then, on the way out, a hot dog and a soda for $1.50. The last thing a member feels every single visit is that this place gave them a deal. That is the memory they leave with. So step back and look at the whole picture. The hot dog is a bet that one unchanging number buys more loyalty than a few cents of margin ever could. Costco is wagering that people do not actually want the lowest price. They want to stop wondering if they are being taken advantage of. For 4 decades, a 92% renewal rate suggests the bet keeps paying. It is a genuinely rare thing in modern retail. A company that found something it valued more than charging more. So the next time you see that price, understand what you are looking at. It is not a bargain. It is a promise the company has spent 40 years and 2 factories refusing to break. Costco loses money on every single one it sells, and that, precisely, is the point.